Welcome to the LeadingAge Maintenance and Facilities Monthly Training Series. We call it Let's Get It Done. The Stall Companies is partnered with LeadingAge to bring you these monthly training sessions with the goal of providing information that you will find helpful. The Stall Companies is a consulting firm with a focus on healthcare. Our team works with hospitals, acute care facilities, and long-term care facilities in California. Our vision is to deliver projects with expertise for the health of our communities, and we are passionate about helping our partners in the healthcare community deliver the care that our communities need to be healthy. Walt Stahl was the Chief Compliance Officer at OSHPD, now called HCI, and he provided a critical link between the agency and the healthcare community in California. When he left OSHPD, Walt founded the Stall Companies so that he could assist healthcare facilities directly. Today we have Alfredo Saldana, one of our project managers, here to share information on facility assessments. Alfredo has over 13 years of experience, and one of his skills is to assist facilities in identifying code compliance issues and assessing maintenance and determining the best way to resolve them. These tips will help you to get ahead of maintenance concerns before they become problems.
Thank you, Debbie, and thank you everybody for tuning in. Today we're going to be talking about facility assessments, and things that include are going to be the importance of facility assessments, preventative maintenance, maintaining your facility, who should we call for service, and what to expect from the service providers. Here's just a simple cover sheet of what we like to call a uniform building inspection report. So this will just kind of an overview of the site itself, wherever that may be. So the importance of facility assessments is identifying issues. Could be appearance, maintenance, ADA, code compliance, grading, plumbing, electrical, HVAC, water heaters, etc. So, obviously appearance is going to be the appearance of your facility. We want to identify any maintenance issues and make sure we're maintaining all systems within the facility. ADA, code compliance kind of go hand in hand. There's a number of items that will come up whenever there's a compliance officer on site that can identify issues and point those out and even cite you. Grading is an issue, plumbing, electrical, HVAC, and water heaters. And who do we call? Do we call contractors or the maintenance staff? When do issues draw our attention? Typically it's, there's going to be a leak, some flooding, system failures, injury. And as I mentioned previously, code violations from jurisdictional surveys. Leaks always pop up usually when there's a heavy rain, and we don't identify leaks ahead of time until those issues arise. So part of the facility assessments is having somebody come and inspect the roof and point out potential areas that could cause leaks, that will allow leakage. Flooding, a lot of times that comes from poor grading that most folks aren't going to recognize on their own. We're not out there looking for those. We're there for residential care, patient care, and things of that nature. So it's not our expertise, which is another reason to get facility assessments out at your sites. System failures. A lot of times these draw our attention. All of a sudden they stop working. What causes those items to fail? A lot of times it's lack of maintenance. So preventative maintenance, injury. This is also going to raise everybody's attention. We don't want folks getting injured anywhere. So things to prevent that, what's going to be pointed out on your site assessments are cracked concrete in your walkways, roots protruding, weeds, things like that. And then, of course, you have jurisdictional surveys and code violations that can get us all in trouble. So it's good to have a site assessment to point out any items that may stand out more than others for some of these folks. And again, these are items that we're not going to recognize just walking these sites daily. So it's good to have a professional come out and assess the sites. What's the response? Temporary repair solution. Sometimes we're just going to put a quick Band-Aid on the issue, kind of put it behind us, and then we're going to forget about it until that same issue rises again. We've seen cases where residents have to be moved temporarily. That's definitely something we don't want. We don't want to inconvenience our residents nor our staff or bring out bringing in outside personnel to move residents. So again, it's a cost thing. Corrective repairs is obviously the way to go. So if you do a temporary repair and you have a, Band-Aid, so to speak, on that repair, it's good to have a contractor come out, assess that repair, and make the corrective repairs if needed. So contractors here, do we call the contractor? Do we have our maintenance team do that? And again, the site assessment's going to help you determine that whether you need a contractor or your maintenance team can repair that. Obviously, cost is always going to be a big issue. If we can do repairs in the house, then it is obviously more efficiently the better way to resolve that solution. Mental flow chart, progression steps to repair. Is it under warranty? Could it be repaired? Can I repair it? Meaning, can the maintenance team take care of that? Do you call for service? When was a previous maintenance? It is always good to have a track record of anything you have done, performed out at your site, whether it's repairs or maintenance, and you can always look back on that record and say, hey, well, we just had this, item looked at a month ago, and here we are having more issues. So again, that may be a warranty thing. So let's stop and talk maintenance. Maintenance is a key aspect to maintaining your facility. Your drains, gutters, grading, UV protection, tree trimming, HVAC, etc. What is regularly, you ask? I think it will depend on what you're doing. Drains and gutters, obviously that's going to take place prior to winter. After a big storm, heavy windy day, you want to make sure that those gutters and drains are clear of all debris. Grading, that's another huge thing. We want to make sure that we're grading and deterring any water from the building structures. That's going to avoid any water intrusion, etc. UV protection, that's something that can be done, yearly. Do it once. Go out there, get some UV protection paint on your exposed pipes, wirings, things like that. Tree trimmings, probably once, twice a year. We want to make sure we're doing that every year again, that's going to help you avoid any debris going in your drains or gutters. HVAC units, those should be done probably every 30 to 60 days, excuse me, for your filters. And then also quarterly to have somebody come out there and take a look at that unit, make sure that it's in proper functioning order. So we're systems compromised. We need additional drains, corrective grading, proper tree trimming, exposed pipe protection. Again, those are all items that a lot of those can be done in-house. If you do have some grading issues, if you've got some water intrusions coming in, then you may want to have a professional come out there and assess the situation. Again, these are all included in our site assessments, and the inspector will point these items out to you. So here's some examples of some grading and drainage. If you look here, you can see the downspout come down. However, it's not connected to the drain that's going into the earth. So that's gonna puddle up right there around the building structure and cause an issue. Here's a grading issue. Here's a perfect example. The earth is sloped towards the building, which is an issue. However, if you've got proper drainage next to the building structure, any damage to the building structure will be limited, so we could prevent that. We'll talk more about maintenance. Earth separation from structures, we kind of just spoke on that, but it's going to help you to minimize moisture entering the structure. It's going to minimize dry rot and minimize termites. So here's another example of earth separation. We want to make sure that the building's got enough, the building structure's got enough space between any earth or vegetation to allow the building to air out if need be. Here's another example of poor drainage. You got dry rot piling up here due to the lack of earth separation. Pedestrian walkways, uneven cracks, weeds. Who's responsible for the public walkways? Public walkways, it's gonna differ between county and cities. It's good to have that information. If you feel that you are responsible for the walkway, it's best to reach out to local jurisdiction and make sure that you aren't fully responsible for that walkway. So again, that could be a costing. You can ask the city or the county to come and repair that walkway. These are going to be public walkways I'm talking about. And then you've got your uneven cracks or weeds in your walkways that are on the property. You want to maintain those. You want to get those either grinded down or repoured if need to. Here's some examples. See this here? This is going to be a public walkway, and then you've got some sidewalk here that is part of the owner's structure there. Again, this area was grounded down. There's some roots that are causing this walkway to raise. So again, property assessments are going to identify any roots that could potentially cause issues for your walkways. Service agreements, you want to have a reputable company, obviously. Research that company's history, get some references from other clients. Establish a good relationship with a good company and have a good contract. Make sure we're not just, signing a piece of paper and handing it over. You want to make sure that everything's detailed and called out on those contracts. It's always good to have somebody else take a look at that contract if you don't feel comfortable doing so. Here at the stall company, we can help you with that. Always follow up on the work that was performed. If they said they did some work, let's go take a look at it ourselves and make sure everything is good and up to par and per the contract. Walk the areas regularly, see it for yourself, and make sure that these areas that are being maintained. So you want to have a plan, you want to identify the issues and keep records, again, records of your services performed or any work performed. And we'll kind of repeat this throughout this series just so that you have that and it's kind of embedded in your mind. It is always good to have records. HVAC units. We talked about HVAC units on our last presentation, but we're going to talk about it a little bit more based on the assessment of those units. So the building assessor, they're going to come out and they're going to, identify any visible deficiencies or concerns. They're going to let you know the date of the manufacturing of the unit. Units are near end of life. Filter maintenance, ductwork distribution, roof, attic, and other. They're going to take a look at all that and let you know whether you've got leaks in your ducting, whether your HVAC units are on their last leg, whether they are older units, however, they've been maintained very well, and they could last you a number of years moving forward. Here's just some examples of some HVAC units. You want to make sure, again, this is going to go back to having contractors perform work. Go back and look at the work that they performed, and you want to make sure that it's up to par. If it's not, and it's not per their contract, they're not executing the work as what was discussed and in the contract, then let's go back to them and have them correct the issues. This is just kind of, a typical area or a typical site of where, your filters are going to be at for your HVAC units. Typically, they're going to be in the corridors or down in the wall boards in the corridors as well. So we just want to make sure that you have your maintenance team checking on those things monthly and then replacing them as needed. Here's just an example of some ceiling duct work. I'm sorry, not ceiling, some roof duct work. So the building inspector, the site assessor, he'll come out and take a look at all this stuff, like I said, and he's going to take a look and see if there's any leaks that are standing out. And again, this is something that us as out at care facilities, we're not looking at that. That's not our expertise to do so. So it is always good to have your building assessed. Roof assessments. Let's talk about that for a little bit. You want to check your drainage systems, your flashing, your skylights, chimneys, trimming of the trees. Draining systems, there's always draining systems on the roof. That water that lands on the roof has got to go somewhere. You want to make sure that those drains are clear of any debris. That's obviously going to help prevent any leaks. Your flashing, that's another area that, we're not going to look at. We don't know to look for it. And you want to make sure that all the flashing is installed correctly so we don't have any leaks. Skylights, chimneys, same thing. Trimming, you want to make sure when they trim any trees around your structure that they're not only trimming above the sidewalks, but also that's above the roof, because those leaves and branches are going to fall on the roof, and it's going to cause some debris to go into your drainage system. Here's an example here. We've got, some debris up on top of the roof, and all these little leaves you see here, they're going to end up in the drainage. Here's another example of some improper tree trimming. It's hanging over the roof, and again, your branches and leaves are going to fall on the roof, and they're going to clog your drain system. So it's something that we definitely want to look out for. And again, the building inspector, the guy assessing the building, he's gonna catch all this stuff for you. Plumbing components and applications. Your maintenance team should always know where your main water source and your shut-off location is at. You'd be surprised, most facilities do not have this information. If you have a huge pipe breaking your building or on your property, that water is going to pour out until you get the city or county out there to shut that off. You can save some water and any more damage by having your maintenance team go out there and shut off that main water source. Primary interior heating, energy source, and shut off location. Again, this is something your maintenance team should know. And the inspector, the site assessor, he will locate all these for you. Water heaters, the types, gas or electric, and locations. He'll point all that information out for you. Appliance and vent types and their condition, laundry facilities, sewage disposal. Again, the assessor is going to point out all this stuff for you so that you have all this information and you can pass it along to your maintenance team. And again, this is all information that your maintenance team should have on hand. And again, like I said before, you'd be surprised how many folks do not have this information. Typical shut-off valve. This is something your maintenance team should know. If there is no shut-off valves, or if you have an improper shut-off valve, the site assessor will point that out as well. Here's an example of where your main water shut-off location would be. It's usually outside of the property. However, sometimes it is right next to the building structure. So again, this is all good information to have for not only for you, but for your maintenance team. Typical shut-off valve for, for your gas. They're usually right in line of the pipe, so coming from the earth. What's your plan? You're going to need a narrative of the scope of the work you're considering. Elements of the project could include, drainage, walkway leveling, tree trimming, ductwork, system condition, water heaters, HVAC units, and building structure. And what's your budget? I'm going to let Debbie touch on these for a little bit.
So your soft costs are your design support. If you need to hire an architect or a designer, a mechanical engineer, any of those, you'll need permits. There's air balancing, testing, and reading. There's a number of different design support that you'll have for soft costs you may have, including your project. And you also have inspections. You'll always have inspections, and there's fees for inspections. So you'll want to make sure that you're including those. Then there's your hard costs, your contractor. So your general contractor fees, they will have perhaps a plumber, an electrician, a low voltage, mechanical, all those will be under the general contractor. So it'll be their costs. And then there's materials. which are typically procured by the contractor, but depending on how your contract's put together, you may be paying for those materials directly, or they may be buying them and providing you with a markup, so you're paying a markup on them. So you'll need roofing materials, potentially plumbing, HVAC. You'll also need to provide staging space for them. If it's a larger project, they may have quite a bit of material, and it may not come just in time. They may need a staging space for that. They may need a space for their project manager to come and sit on site or to work with their people. And so they may need some additional space for that. Your schedule, really need to consider right now, we're having a lot of issues with supply chain. So materials that used to be on the shelf or close to it, we would receive within a week or 2 weeks. We're now seeing 12 weeks. So we need to make sure that your supply chain is understood, and that your materials are all coming at the time that you need them. Otherwise, you're going to have staging of some materials, but not enough to actually do your project. So work with your contractor on that and make sure that that's understood before progressing. You'll want to establish a start date and an end date. As Alfred is showing, a lot of these maintenance and repairs are outdoors. So you need to consider weather. And it's not always sunny in California. So there's you will need to consider the time of year when you're starting and when you're completing. Make sure that you're getting a contract with them, not just a proposal. You request a proposal, and then you negotiate, you talk about the proposal, you make sure that it includes the scope of work that you gave them, and then you want to put the results of that into the contract. So your contract should include the scope of work that you've both agreed upon. Make sure you're having your contract reviewed so that it is in your best interest, right? Some contractors will ask you for money up front. You don't want to give a large amount up front, especially if you're not familiar with this contractor, if you haven't worked with them before. They may need some material costs in advance, so you'll pay for the materials so that they can get those to the site. But if they're asking for 50% up front, that's something to be very concerned about. Think about the size of your contractor. There's a lot of smaller contractors that will do small jobs, and that's perfectly fine. But when you start getting into larger projects, you want to make sure that you have a contractor that has experience with that size of project and the ability to actually perform the work in a timely manner. Make sure they're legitimate, that they're actually doing work, that the type of work that you're asking them to do, that they have experience with all of that. And really, can't say enough, check their references, really. So next month, we'll be sharing information on how to develop a budget for your project. Budgets have many components: contracts, scopes of work, schedules. We'll talk about all of these components and how to put them together to create a realistic budget. So if you have any questions on the facility assessments or what we're talking about upcoming on budgets, please feel free to call us directly at the stall companies, 916-635-8855. Thank you.